Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Are you feeling charitable? Then smash the subscribe button, the like button, and the share button. And please do follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And did you know, formerly, I had a Twitter account called Smallville Mad. That's how obsessed I was with this show. Yesterday was 19 years since the show premiered over on the WB. I remember hearing about this show, actually not being too non-pleased actually that it was happening, because I remember just not wanting another Superboy TV series. Understandably, I didn't know what Smallville would be, but from the first moment I watched Smallville, it changed my life, it changed my world. And that flickering flame I had in my heart for Superman was reignited. It was such a wonderful show. It didn't miss a beat. It was a character-driven story to see a young Clark Kent and how he finally becomes Superman. There was so many references to DC Comics. They did so much. They even had their own kind of Justice League. It was an amazing 10-year journey. And when I think about Smallville, I can only smile. I think it's untouchable. I think no one can beat what Smallville did in terms of a Superman TV show. And it was a Superman TV show, even though he didn't become Superman till the finale. He's still Superman. He's still got powers, and he's still saving people. It was an amazing show. And that pilot to this day is probably one of the most amazing pilots I've ever seen. One of the most expensive pilots ever made, but just an amazing show. Just seeing the character-driven journey of Clark Kent, seeing what they did with Lex Luthor, original characters like Lionel Luthor, played by the fantastic John Glover, original characters like Chloe, played by Alison Mack. I think we won't go into her too much, but we will say she was a tremendous actor, and Chloe was one of my favourite characters on the show. Clark's two relationships that he ever has in his life, Lana and Lois, referenced in a beautiful way. And no one's done that before. No one's been able to actually captivate the Clark and Lana relationship and the Lois Lane relationship. Ultimately, it's a whole journey. And it really was amazing. And the whole element of making Kryptonite a character on the show as well in the first season, the show really worked. Season 1, if you are thinking of going to binge Smallville, if you've never seen it before, Season 1 is a more slower-paced, charming season, but very good. And it just makes you fall in love with Superman all over again. And if you've never been into Superman before, you certainly will be into Superman after you've seen Smallville. An absolutely amazing show. This show is a show that had a beginning, middle, and an ending. And it was a show that was always able to reinvent itself. It was at a time where you could really make something extremely special, where you had the freedom to be creative. I don't believe showrunners and creatives have got that freedom anymore with what's going on with identity politics and what's going on in this world. But this was a show with absolute pure freedom, and it was amazing. The supporting characters were just as amazing as how Clark was portrayed. Everyone had a journey. Everyone had an arc, all right, apart from Pete Ross. But unfortunately, that was unfortunate, the way they treated that character. But Smallville is a major success story for so many reasons. I didn't even know it was 19 years since the premiere, since other people spoke about it. It just was an amazing show, an emotional show. The character arcs, the character journeys. Smallville had some of the best finales I've ever seen, some of the best premieres I've ever seen. Tom Welling really carried the idea of what a young Clark Kent should be. And of course, Rosenbaum is still the best version of Lex Luthor you will ever see. He was amazing, one of the best actors. I can't believe he hasn't gone forward with his career. That's a shame, but he's doing really well with his Inside of You podcast, and I'm happy for him for that. But look, an amazing show. So many things you could say about Smallville. It went beyond Superman in a lot of ways, but never forgot it was a Superman show. never forgot that the arc of the show was about Clark Kent's journey, and that's what I loved about it. I mean, this is a show where we finally saw the Fortress of Solitude rise in season 5. We then had season 7, which was our Miles' final season running the show. They're the creators. They're the ones who come up with Smallville. They're the ones who did such a fabulous job. I think if we're talking about the weakest element of Smallville, it probably is the final 3 seasons. But the final 3 seasons still have a lot of gems. And I think episodes like Bride were groundbreaking. The idea that Doomsday had an alter ego called Davis Bloom was amazing. Sam Witwer, who's gone on to do so well with Star Wars as well, and the Clone Wars as Darth Maul, was a great Davis Bloom. He really gave us a human element to look at. It was a different angle of doing that character. And that's what Smallville did. It found new ways to represent Superman, but the depth of what Clark went through, discovering each and every power, and how difficult that was to come to terms with his powers, come to terms as what they called it, his secret, which was the fact that he's from Krypton. But the added element that the meteor shower full of kryptonite, which nearly destroyed Smallville in the first meteor shower, and there's 2 meteor showers in the whole of the 10 seasons, which is amazing, and the responsibility Clark feels for that meteor shower. For example, the meteor shower killed Lana Lang's parents. That was a very important element of him being resistant to open up to her, and of course, that was a problem within their relationship. Christine Creek was amazing as Lana. What an amazing actor she was. A lot of the hate she got was outrageous from the shippers. You should never hate on an actor. It's not real. It's fantasy. You should take it as that. But, you know, Smallville was an emotional crutch for me. It was very important. When in the early years of Smallville, I was living in a bedsit on my own. I was very lonely, and I took these characters and they were like friends to me. But it was all about Superman for me. And they created his universe in such a fabulous way. And it could have been just a show that was just stuck with the same concept, which is a young Clark Kent on the farm, going to school, and then it could have ended. But they went a hell of a lot more than that, you know. Green Arrow and all the other DC characters they represented, as many as they were allowed to. Anyway, we had a version of The Flash, as I say, Green Arrow, Aquaman. It just goes on. Cyborg. Regrettably, the actor who played Cyborg died. And then we had The Legion. The Legion episode written by Jeff Johns, an amazing episode. Absolute Justice written by Jeff Johns. An amazing, groundbreaking event on television. Without Smallville, there would not be the superhero craze now. It really made superheroes fashionable. Every week, we could go back to living out young Clark Kent's journey to becoming Superman. The fact that we saw Christopher Reeve as Dr. Virgil Swan, the very character that introduces Clark to the concept of where he's from, telling him about Krypton and introducing that word to Clark, telling him about kryptonite. And look, you know, I remember when I used to have them all recorded on VHS, and I used to try and do trailers. And I always used to say, the trailers always used to end up 20 or 30 minutes long, which was ridiculous, because I was trying to put my best moments on. But there's so many moments that were my best, I couldn't decide. And I just think it was an amazing show. Smallville always gave you more than you ever expected. This really, I think nothing or no one's ever got into the nuances of how hard it is to be this character. And I think Smallville did it. It really showed how difficult all this is for Clark. I remember the episode, is it The Traveller, when he talks to Patricia Swan and he goes, I hope I can be what everyone expects me to be. I mean, I want to cry just saying that to you. It was amazing. There's so many moments. The Lex and Lionel dynamic, the Clark and Lex dynamic, the Clark and Lionel dynamic. Lionel Luthor, an original character, was so brilliant and so dastardly, and he enjoyed being evil, but then they kind of brought him back to a level. But ultimately, even till the day he died, Lionel was playing everyone. He was obsessed with this Cain and Abel fantasy, and this is what he was trying to do with Clark and Lex. And ultimately, just like in Batman versus Superman in a lot of ways, and it's not about Lionel. In Batman versus Superman, it's about the manipulation that Lex Luthor does to Batman and Superman. Well, in Smallville, really, Lionel is manipulating the whole thing. He knew about the arrival of the Traveler. He knew Clark was coming. He knew who Clark was from the beginning, and he wanted to play that to his advantage. He wanted the power. He wanted to own Clark, but then when he was touched by Clark's goodness. How amazing was that? To see a character who's so dark being touched by Superman's goodness. And Clark touched a lot of people in Smallville. And this is why it was such an amazing show. Then the fabulous performance and dynamic between John Schneider and Tom Welling as Clark. And, John was playing Jonathan Kent. The best version of Jonathan Kent you will ever see. And I love Glenn Ford's version. And I love Kevin Costner's version as well. But John had 5 seasons to perfect this character. And you could just see the strength within the performance that this was a father figure. I always said this is the kind of father I always wish I had. Because not that I have any issues with my own father, but if you had such a moral compass leading you, how amazing is that? But what I love about John's performance as Jonathan Kent is he's not perfect. He can lose his temper. And he can be selfish towards Clark. And that's referenced in the series as well. I think Jonathan Kent should have lived till at least the final season, because that would have taken Clark's final journey and made it a little bit more compelling. But Smallville isn't perfect. There's issues within the show. But because it was such an exceptional show, we held it so high that when it dropped to any level below that, we would criticise the show. But it was amazing. It was run on a low budget, even though the pilot was one of the most expensive ever made. The season 4 finale was one of the most expensive finales ever made, and probably the most expensive episode of Smallville of all time. Even more money than the finale. I think the finale has issues. I think the overfocus on Clark and Lois's wedding and romantic element was a mistake. I think Lionel and the dark side stuff was, not to be labelled the point, embarrassing. I think they dropped the ball with the finale. I think the animals had taken over the zoo by then. I think too many members of cast were leading the narrative in the end. Alice and Mac, deciding that Chloe should have a happy ending. That's not how our Miles foresaw that character. A lot of people wanted her to die, but I didn't want her to die. I think it would have been great if she ended up in an asylum or something, because there was mental health issues within her family with her mother. That would have been interesting, of course. That means anything that anyone tried to find out about Clark from her wasn't sustainable. But they didn't do that. And the happy ending she had was ridiculous. Apocalypse is coming to Earth. She's looking up and smiling. Didn't make any sense. But ultimately, even with that finale, I'm a lot more cooler now. I was very heartbroken and angry by that finale. But this is what happens, because the original creators and showrunners left in season 7. And so did Michael Rosenbaum as Lex, and so did John Glover as Lionel. Once you lose special elements like that and that vision, you lose something special. And Smallville lost something special when Al Miles left. And, losing Lionel and losing Lex, it was very, very difficult. They brought in Tess. I like Cass Freeman as Tess. I think she was amazing. She was a lot darker at the beginning of season 8, but they watered her down too much. And obviously she became a good character in the end, which I have issues with as well. But she was amazing, especially in Odyssey, the season 8 premiere, when we first saw her. I thought she was going to be a really amazing character, even better than Lex. And I suggested at the time maybe she needed a mother figure to play off of, like Lex had with Lionel. Instead of playing off of Oliver Queen, that didn't really work. And I think it was problematic making Oliver Queen a full-time character. As much as I love Justin as Oliver Queen and the Green Arrow, I don't think that's what we needed at that time. But that's what we got. But Smallville was a strong show from beginning to end. Of course, I always have issues with the way it ended. But ultimately, it was an amazing show. And let me just say this. There's a lot of conjecture about Tom Welling's appearance on Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Arrowverse crossover last year. I do not agree about Superman retiring. I do not agree with Superman not being Superman. And I don't agree with him losing his powers forever with blue kryptonite so he can become a father. I'm sorry, this is one of the nuances about Superman, that he has decided to be Earth's hero. And if he takes that away from Earth and the universe, they're in a lot of trouble and a lot of people will die. Would Superman really sit at the Kent farm and say, fuck it, I don't care about these people, I've done my bit? Is that really who Superman is? And I just think Berlanti doesn't like or want to get Superman, and he's tried to retire Superman before with his very own Superman, which is Tyler Hoechling's Superman. And now with the Superman and Lois show, they're trying to domesticate the character a lot more and water him down. I'm looking forward to that show. I hope it's good. It's different. I like different. So we'll check that out. But at the end of the day, no one is going to better Smallville in terms of Superman on television. It was a show that went on a journey, an amazing journey with Clark and Lex and all the other characters. It was amazing. Erica Durance is one of the best Lois Lanes of all time, if not the best. She had a journey in it. She was amazing. All the cast, all the writing, everyone for 10 years took us on this Superman journey. And as a Superman fan, I couldn't be more prouder of it. Comment down below, like, share and subscribe. And if you're a Smallville fan, please subscribe to this channel and tell other people about it. And we'll start doing more Smallville videos. See you again soon.